Welcome to Biz Dev Live. I am so excited to be getting into the topic of mind and body today. I was just in a conversation face to face with an amazing woman this morning, not Lisa Charles, but we're going to get into this conversation with Lisa Charles. But it's always amazing as you talk about business, as you talk about productivity, as you talk about sales, as you talk about business success, there is no separating the mental wellness aspect of entrepreneurship, of success. If you aren't happy in here, nothing on the outside is going to get you there. So we're going to try to get you a little bit closer to that. Stay with me. We'll be right back right after the Biz Dev Live theme.
Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration, Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Business development, not even selling it. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Biz Dev Live. This is business development, not even selling it.
Lisa Charles is a federal prosecutor turned singer, actress, wellness expert, certified health coach consultant, and an acclaimed speaker. She served as the fitness wellness research coordinator for the Rutgers University Aging and Brain Health Alliance and is the CEO of Embrace Your Fitness LLC and the author of Yes, Commit, Do, Live. She successfully directed her struggle with temporary vocal loss into personal growth by shedding 77 pounds without dieting. This ignited her zeal for fitness, cemented her understanding of the brain-body connection, and prompted her to delve into the process of creating a life based on passion. As a brain, body, and belief alignment specialist, she helps women live an age-defying life so they can release stress, renew their energy, restore sleep, and gain the mental clarity they need to live the life of their dreams. Please welcome to the show the amazing Lisa Charles.
Oh, thank you so much for the introduction and for your great introduction to your show, which I couldn't help but dance to. I'm happy to be here.
I push my buttons here. I appreciate you. Let me get my mental clarity here as people are looking at me. I'm like, why is this image all distorted here? All right. Thank you, Lisa. Talk to me a little bit about how you help people right now. I know we talked a little bit about the age-defying, right? The way that you're able to help people, but just kind of walk people through how you actually help people, and then we'll get into some of the backstory.
Okay, well, my business is really set up to teach people simply how to bust stress and build resilience. And there's a lot of steps in the process that really empowers people from the inside out. I call it top down, inside out wellness. I work in the corporate space, so I do a lot of things with clients that want to have lunch and learns and such, but really take on the issue of ultimate wellness. And then I also, of course, have some one-on-one clients that I love to take through the journey of their, I call it the wellness revolution in their own lives. So, really on both those scales. And then coupled with that, coming out and really speaking on those issues with a variety of organizations, companies, and at different events.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate that. And I think you're just you got an amazing kind of energy with you. So anybody that's working with you on the events side of it, and I come from the events industry, would do well having you on the stage. So I appreciate that. Talk to me, because I can't imagine, and we talked a little bit about the background as a federal prosecutor, moving into singer. What did little Lisa want to be? Because I can't imagine that was all mapped out, right? So Talk to us about what that journey looked like from little Lisa to now.
Well, I'm going to tell you something which is kind of funny because little Lisa at 9 years old really loved the old black and white Perry Masons. And so I'd watch Perry Mason and I would just have this image of myself like taking on a courtroom. Um, when I talk about that, I always have to preface it. It was a rerun, but Perry Mason was something that was really a motivator for me. And so even before I graduated, I just would talk to lawyers. I remember going to one of the little law firms and just wanted to see what the process was. So the seed was planted, but honestly, like everybody else, I had a whole lot of other seeds. There was a veterinarian at one point in time, some other little things that I think maybe even an astronaut. So had other little ideas in there, but the one that sort of really took root was lawyer.
I love that. And so, what did that journey look like for you? Because that's not an easy journey at all. So, what was the process with parents and because you got to dig in, right, to do that journey. I know for us, my daughter's interested in going into medical, and so first of all, the passion has to be there. So it sounded like you had that, right? So that was good. But then there's the whole school journey and all the pieces that go into that, and then actually getting there, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's not. I always say I start with this. It is based on passion, and it's also based a little bit on what your own internal interests and things are. So, I knew I really loved. It'll sound real basic, but arguing. I would always be the one defending, arguing on some side for friends and the family. Always trying to reach conclusions. And I felt myself that this would be something that I would love to do. So when I thought of law, I thought of courtroom. So when I went to college, I loved politics too. I loved anthropology, but I loved things that really allowed me the opportunity to present, to speak. I happen to have a great mentor, and this is one of the things that I would really advise that as you go through and you really meet your different professors and even instructors in high school and junior high school, I always would find different teachers and then ultimate professors that were just pearls of wisdom for me that I could really bounce off the ideas that I had, my Perry Mason ideas, and there could be some more balance and reality put to it. So I had a lawyer at Tufts University. I took a lot of her political science classes. Her name was Professor Glader. I loved her, but she was a great mentor for me about what law practice was really going to be. And in addition to that, I did reach out to just back in the day, you really didn't think about like, oh, I have to have the big old resume before I just knock on it. I would just knock on doors. I think you can still do that. I would knock on doors. There's a particular law firm that I knocked on the door of just to be able to talk to someone. So
Such an underrated skill, right?
yeah,
Just to go
just
out
go for it.
and go, yeah.
I think people are so caught up in there's so many levels and layers that separate them from the activity they want to do. And it never really dawned on me that I had to go through some ultimate levels and layers before I just asked the question. And then once my path got started in, what I'm going to do, I want to go to law school. I was probably one of the strangest law school students. I always say, well, a lot of my friends laugh about it because I loved school. I loved reading cases. I was the person that did all the extra work. When you're really fueled with a passion for your topic, you'll find that it didn't feel like work for me. I ended up working for some of my professors. So I was in that process learning, okay, what kind of law do I want to do? Where do I want to land? But also more importantly, I'm making the relationships that last a lifetime. So when you want to go do something, there's someone that can write a wonderful review, not just you as a student or you on your grade, but you as a person, a relationship, a friendship. So that I think when I look back was something that I consistently did in this one part of my life. And then it ultimately is something that I use for other parts as I continue to evolve.
I love that. And I also love that you talked about mentorship. I mean, I think one of the, we had a conversation before, how passionate I'm about opportunity and education. And this is one of those things that, finding mentors and tapping into them and really utilizing
Yeah.
mentorship is such a big, big, big deal.
And it's such a two-way street too, because the mentor gets a lot from being able to share their wisdom and to share their experience. And there's something really special when someone comes to you and asks you, what do you think, or what do you like, or what was your life like? You ignite something really wonderful for them in their reminiscence and their ability to also maybe make your path a little more smooth, and so that you won't make some of the decisions or the choices that they now can, very nicely show that there's an easier way to go. So it's a two-way street, and I think, sometimes we think of mentorship as one, but it really is a two-way street. And if you do it in the right way, which is to form a real relationship, it's not just, hey, give me information and that's it. If they give you information, you want to come back to them, hey, I did this and look what happened, and celebration of what happened, and you build on it, and it's a constant respect of the time that people give to you. So that is something I think, if something that's a little bit lost right now. I can definitely see it in the ways that people reach out and then ask for things, and it's not a question of building a relationship, it's a question of just information, but it's the relationship that makes the mentorship golden. And so I can think through my life of all the really key mentors that led me through different aspects of, school and classes and career. And it's a joy for me to be able to reach back, to give back, and to create those kind of relationships with another generation.
I love that. And talk to us about going from from knocking on the doors, getting that experience, to being a federal prosecutor, because that's no small achievement. Congratulations on that. By the way, obviously, long in the past now, but I mean, when I think of things that people are trying to do in law, that's one of those things that it's coveted role.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say that whole thing that I said before about not being afraid to ask questions, I spoke to a lot of lawyers. So I would say, oh, well, do you like what you do? And if I found that a lot of people were really not, some in their careers, whatever they were doing, that it seemed to give them a spark, they might have been good at it, but it wasn't married with a passion. And I just took all those pieces of information in. So when I was in school, two things. One, I made sure I took an internship that threw me into some area that I was possibly thinking about. So I took an internship at a big law firm. I took an internship at a tiny, weeny law firm. I took an internship doing public defending work, which was really fascinating because I actually tried cases as a law school student. It was right, kind of frightening. With the public defender's office and this joint program that they had. But I could really get a sense of, okay, what is it to be in the corporate law? What is it to be in a really small space where you're doing sort of general practice and everything and anything that comes in the door? What is it to be in court? And it was clear to me through my internships that courtroom was where it was at. Kind of would have thought that anyway, but it was definitely cemented with that internship. And then I got another internship, was more on the federal side, which was super cool. Didn't have as much direct contact and actually taking responsibility of trying something or appearing in court, but I was able to get exposed to the federal system. And so, all of these things, I feel like they're building blocks. And so here you go through your life and you're like, okay, this experience leads to this. And maybe you're not acting on it right away, but you're just keeping it there. And it's really protected along the lines of, as you continue to live, you can call upon these experiences and these building blocks when the opportunity presents. And so when I graduated, knowing that I really wanted to do something in court, I really started to look at prosecutors' offices. One thing that I found talking to prosecutors, they may say, oh my goodness, I'm so busy. I have a caseload that's nuts. But most people kind of found a thrill, a love, a passion, something in it. I would see that with a great majority, and it just really attracted me. Um, so I put in my application at a series of prosecutors' offices in New York because I picked the city I wanted to start my career in, which was another big step to look at, did I want small or large? And I kind of grown in a tiny, not tiny town, but I did graduate finally from a very tiny town in a high school of 50 people. So I think about that from high school and, college, tough stuff.
And that's always fun for people to hear. So where did you originally grow up versus, I know you're in New York City now, but where did you originally grow up?
Well, I originally grew up in Rockville, Maryland, which is not a tiny town, but it's not what it is now. If anyone goes down to Maryland and you drive any of the cities near this DC, they've really built up. It was a little farmlandy, it wasn't a whole lot going on. You could drive down what they call the Rockville Pike, and you would just see like lots of free land. Um, but it was a great experience. And then my parents. See, I still have to take a breath for this. We moved my senior year of high school. I have to say that again. We moved my senior year of high school.
That's rough.
And
Yeah.
it was a little rough.
I talked to my, by the way, I talk to my children. I have a sophomore in high school right now. I have a middle schooler and somebody that's moving from elementary to middle school. And then I have my 5-year-old, but with all the older children, I just mentioned, and I'm, I'm dedicated. Like I've made that like we're going to stay in the school district. Talk to my wife about that because we've had conversations about moving. No, I want them to have a steady experience from end to end. But every now and then, the topic comes up, and I say, oh, would you want to move over here? No. No, there's a hard no.
It's a big thing, especially if you have a school system that you really like. You know your neighbors. There is something about, I always say growing up in Rockville was a little bit like Mayberry, like I knew all the neighbors. We all would meet in the middle of the street and play games, so it was, we moved
It's
to
rough. It's
Brookfield,
rough moving your senior year. I feel bad for all the folks that had to deal with like junior and senior years with COVID, like missing out. It's been a hard couple of years for high school students in general. So there's worse things that happen.
There's worse. That's what I was just about ready to say. This upon which I'm shedding my crocodile tears, as my dad would say. Goodness, whatever.
Right.
You were liking this, you had a great teacher, you had really good friends, so he'll give the other side of the flip of the story. I'm just giving you the teenage angst.
Yeah.
And it did repair itself. I'll tell you what, I had some of the great mentor teachers that came out of that small, tiny school I went to in Connecticut.
Nice.
And someone that really helped me to see, go to Tufts, Lisa. Don't just go back to Maryland, open my eye to Boston. So, moves happen for reasons. So I think
we went from Connecticut and then went to school in New Jersey. We got Marianne Romano checking in from Princeton, New Jersey, right? So she's in the comments here talking about truly about the fire of our passion, and she couldn't agree more about mentors. Sometimes we don't even realize we might be one to someone. We all should have them for our professional and personal growth. That's awesome. All right, so talk to us about, so you get this opportunity, you're knocking on doors, which I can't sort of echo and amplify enough. I see it all the time in job applicants. I hire a lot of people for my hospitality business, and you can see it as you're going through the job interview process and you're talking to people that are working with you. You can really, really feel it. Like you say, oh, you're passionate about this. Why aren't you knocking on these doors, right? Why aren't you pursuing that? So can't amplify that message enough. Such a big deal. So you were knocking on doors, getting these opportunities. Talk to us about how that ended up, because obviously our story continues here, because you didn't wind up, you're not still and currently a federal prosecutor. So
one would come on here and say, oh, what's she going to talk about, what case she's trying? Well, I figured all that out. I ended up being at the prosecutor's office in Brooklyn. It was amazingly tense and incredible. I learned so much about people. I interviewed hundreds of people. I tried a number of cases. It was really in the late 80s, and it was a time there was a lot of crime in Brooklyn. And I ended up doing cases with child abuse and rape cases. I had ended up doing cases on police corruption. And so I had a wide breadth. I had the most amazing supervisors that I still keep in contact with. That's how great they were. Okay, I'm not even practicing law. I still
Wow.
keep in contact with because they were incredible. Um, made it an exciting experience, and it was a great growth experience for me to really take on that. How do you help someone? So I say that because there's a consistent theme in the things that I do. I love the idea of coming in at the darkest moments of somebody's temporary dark moment of somebody's life and being able to structure something that could bring them into light. I found that to be an absolute passion of mine. And so I would figure out, well, not only, of course, preparing for trial and what, but I found that a lot of things I was sharing with them are ways to empower them. And I would always be talking about your inner superhero, the power within. Now you have a chance to really confront because that person doesn't have power over you. You know, these things that I started just to bring into my work as a prosecutor that I have and bring into my work and now in the wellness arena. But I love that idea of seeing transformation of people. And I saw it over and over again from people that were not beat down by a crime that may have physically beat them, but it didn't really take their spirit. And they have the ability to rebound and find their resilience through the whole process. And I took that from the state to the federal. I thought I was blown away by organized crime. Don't ask me why, but I loved The Godfather. Go watch it a billion times. But I love the history of it, and it was really fascinating to me. And I thought I would love to do something that really made a dent, an impact on this area, and um, came to the federal system in New Jersey to focus on organized crime. Worked with one of the best supervisors I could have ever had, Bob Stewart, who just was steeped in history, and I love that mix of history and the current what we were doing, and you know, uh, something that I know about me. And if you talk to my parents, they would say it. I am. I have two sides. I can be very sweet and kind and nice, but when I'm in court, I'm like a dragon. I'm fiery. I can take on anything, and I felt like I had no fear. And so I had some pretty major cases in the office, both on the organized crime, and then I ended up doing police corruption. And my last case was police corruption and organized crime together. Um, so, I felt like I did everything that I was purposed to do in the law. That was when I reached that moment, I made a big transition.
Wow. And that's, I mean, those are, I mean, that is serious stuff. So what sort of sparked this transition?
Well, it was really kind of funny. So I was at the federal prosecutor's office for about it was going on 9 years. And um, I had moved around. I had done a lot. I actually did rape on federal lands. I had done fraud cases. I did organized crime. I started a civil rights unit. Was doing a couple of different major police cases, and it was during one of my trials. I just loved singing and acting. Okay, I loved singing and acting. I used to do dramatic poetry when I was little. My mom was a director when she was in Howard University, and so she would direct me, and I would do these dramatic poetry readings since I was like the age of 6. And I discovered I had a really wonderful singing voice. So I started doing these things, what we call on the side. So I was doing a little show in the city on the side.
And I imagine having an outlet is a big deal too, because you were talking, I mean, you're talking about some really serious cases. And the thing that sort of comes to mind is you were kind of talking about rapes on federal lands.
Yeah.
You're sort of staring a lot at the darkest parts of our humanity.
Yeah.
you're working on that. I always talk to people because, social work, I'm a caring individual. I like helping people. And so social work could sort of seem like a natural fit for me. But I know one of the reasons that I will never be a social worker, and the reason I chose to stay far away from that, is the idea that the problems continue. I'm a solutions guy. I want to go in, give me your problem, your puzzle. Da, 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 da. Okay, this is what you do. This is how you fix it. Done. Put it away.
Right.
And that is not the way social work works. That's not the way that crime and challenges that affect all parts of society work. Like, this stuff is evasive, um, ongoing. There's always somebody picking it up where the last person left off. God forbid there be a vacuum, right? That there's something that to sweep up and pick up and move on with. And so it feels never ending, right? It feels like it's never going to stop. And so I sort of feel that when I'm hearing your story, is like you have this, you're doing this good work, but it's not, there's no end point, right? There's no like, all right, we're done now.
Well, it's not a, it's an interesting thing. So you say a couple of things, and I think about my mom was a social worker as well. So, I grew up with that kind of, she had a very good intuitive nature but also the ability to really ask and to move people to the key components of what's really at issue, and then help to transition them to the next level. So I feel like I just embodied a lot of how I grew up in the way that I approached. So you picked up on something very interesting, because I was, as in the DA's office, I was doing rape cases and child abuse cases, and I would try to bring those cases home by way of talking to my husband about them, and he just said, I'm not in that career, so I can't.
It's really tough.
Can't.
Yeah, it's
So
hard.
he didn't want to, and I had to respect that. That's not something that he chose. What I found is that as prosecutors, police officers, whatever, we have our own ways of letting off steam, and some of that's through humor. That may be funny to the prosecutor, the police officer, and not funny to anyone else, but a way to let off a lot of steam during the day, to really kind of not personalize things. I think in some ways, maybe my attraction to the organized crime is that I felt it would be a little bit more not personalized. Although what I found was that, anytime you have victims of, just you want the best for the people that have been harmed. And so, that is always in play, and people just come up with a whole slew of ways of leaving it at work, and that's the key. The ones that can do that best can last the longest. The ones that cannot tend to go to the law firms.
And it's interesting because I think when we see doctors and we see nurses and we see people that are in the criminal world, in terms of police officers, lawyers, you can look at a person and they're doing their job, and you got this one side, which is how to be effective at my job, and
Right.
then the other side, like bedside manner and like how I am with people. And you're asking people to walk an incredibly difficult tightrope. Yes, do the operation, take out the piece of cancer, have hands that are as steady as can be, right? And I'm talking medical, but that's like your lawyer, that's your judge, right? Do this thing, walk this incredibly challenging tightrope, managing the law, managing all these aspects of it. And oh yes, right, you're like smile and
Baby,
be nice to people, right? Yeah. It's a tough ask. It's not an easy piece for people. And I don't know that it's hard to get that, especially you're a customer on the, the victim side, right? It's hard to be like, understanding, right? You're trying to get your problem solved. And so you're sitting there on the operating, table, and you're, getting something, removed from you, whether it's an actual piece of cancer or some kind of criminal thing, and I think one of the challenging things, social work and
Yeah.
criminal work is, and we deal with this inside the business world, right? Things are going to happen. People are going to be people. People do stuff, and your feelings are going to be hurt, and it's going to be there. Like you have to figure out a
And
way
what do
to,
you do with it? That it.
yeah,
And it's funny because, Cameron, the first area that I wanted to focus on when I really did my whole transition into the wellness unit was to hospitals.
mm,
A lot of my work when I was doing some of the organized crime, and I was really working with a lot of doctors and lawyers, I was working with a lot of nurses, and preparing for different trials. And I know that there are people that are true caregivers, and they don't really know. Some people are better than others, but the ones that have a little trouble really knowing, how do I deal with the things that are really hard to um, incorporate, really hard to analyze, really hard to understand. And so for some people, what they do is they bury and they just stress. And still, out of that subset, it can come off as angry when they get home or in other situations, or frustrated, but it's this ball of stress. And so a lot of my programs were really developed around, how can I help to relieve the stress in a series of ways. And as you alluded to, it's not, of course, limited to any one profession. This issue of stress is an international level of concern, because it is impacting us on levels that we don't even know fully yet. How we will age, how, the impact on disease, the instant impact on enjoyment of life. So all of those things you can definitely see, and I definitely saw it through my own work. Just a funny thing, I was asked to come back to my old office, U.S. Attorney's Office, via Zoom, to do a wellness workshop for fellow lawyers. I'm like, yes, because you guys are stressed out, and I know you are. As I have lived it.
right,
So
yeah.
I always say it comes full circle, some things in
So
your
talk
life.
to us, because I want to get to some of these learning points, because I think we're speaking to what the issue is, right? And so we'll have some stuff for folks to sort of work through some of this stuff. So you're in the prosecutor's office.
Yeah,
You're pursuing your singing and acting. Talk
on
to
the
us about
side.
on the side.
The
Talk to us
side.
through that story. Maybe we can kind of get the,
I
the
love
the
it.
main points, and then we'll kind of move into our talking points here. But talk to us about what sort of sparked that final transition, and then obviously there's that story to tell, because that ended up being a real challenge in your life.
Yeah. So I was on kind of a major case. Super stressed. I'm going to say I wasn't super stressed. If you do big trials, things don't add up all the time. The witness doesn't come, and someone doesn't say what they said before. So, whatever the issue was, and I had, developed a number of friends in the FBI. So I remember one of my friends had come in, and he had said to me, he just said this term, Lisa, when are you going to do what you do on the side full time? I mean, he just asked me that question. I never said I was going to do what I do in this, but asking the question, just it planted the seed. I might have given him I don't even know what I said to him. I'm sure I didn't say, oh, next week, but it started this cascade in me to ready me for the next change. I started just asking myself questions, which is something that I work with my clients on. Simple question of, who am I? Like, who am I? And at the time, I was defining myself a lot by my career and by my titles. And when I started really delving into it further, I just realized that I am so much more than what I've done. And I want to explore what other passions and loves I have. And let's just do it. For me, once I make a decision, then I just start to look at, how am I going to make that happen? In very short order, I left to really enter singing and acting full time. I did my little checklist. Get an agent. Start making connections in that world. Started doing the same. Get a mentor. All the things we talked about before. Other actors that are already doing, not because they can give me something, but love to hear about it, visit sets, put yourself in those situations. And I'm not going to lie to you, I loved it. With a capital as capital L. Did it for, it seemed like a while, but it was really rather short period of time, about 4 years of my life, doing a lot of different commercial work, a lot of different corporate videos, some soap operas, some cable shows. And then a woman heard me sing. I was still singing, still doing my one-woman show and a one-woman show through New Jersey. Jazz Row, Cotton Club. But she said, boy, you have an operatic voice. I think I could show you in a very short order opera. And, well, my goodness, could you say no to that? I said, well, that's just the ultimate. And I ended up singing opera. Actually sang a concert at Carnegie Hall of a original opera. We did a duet. It's a beautiful, beautiful singer that I sang with. And about a year beyond that, I started having vocal problems and doing really quick fix vocal solutions that a lot of singers would do. And I got myself into some trouble with having a throat infection and ultimately found myself unable to sing a note. And what was more challenging was that I was not able to be heard. So if you were standing in front of me and I think you can hear me, and I couldn't be heard. So I had to go through vocal therapy, and it was
And I can't imagine the frustration because you've quit one career, right? You've left one career to go do another career, and then the moment you start having some success, land some amazing opportunities, now this happens, and it's got to feel a little bit like, God, what are you telling me?
I'm going to tell you what it does, and this is something I love working with people on. It not only did I feel everything you just said, but it started just playing with my mind from even childhood things that maybe, you're never going to be able to do this, all the things that I thought I don't think about, but I obviously did. I was I say survivor of a bully, when I was very young, and the things people say and the things that may have even happened when in 4th grade, and you think it's so gone. When you're in your own dark moments, those things can come full force if you haven't really, what I say, shine a light on them and come up with ways of combating and confronting those thoughts, negative thoughts. I was in a cascade of negative thoughts, and to top it off, I started not feeling well. I had to go to the hospital, and I had they really still haven't really said, but I had to stay in a couple of days, stomach ailment, and they couldn't figure out the nature of it. They just kept asking me, was I in Mexico? That just should drive me nuts. No.
Why has it got to be Mexico? Why is Mexico the
I
problem?
know. And every time a new person would come in with the same question. I'm like, isn't it in the chart? But what I found was I was very unhealthy. I was significantly overweight because I had to actually get on a scale in the hospital. You couldn't just say, you know what, I think I weigh. And my eating was off. I really wasn't, committed to any kind of ongoing movement. And I was just a hot mess. And I was so used to just doing diets all during the time of prosecuting whatever. What I would do is if I had a show coming up, I go on a diet, sometimes quick diets, long diets, whatever. And they were messing my system up. They were messing my metabolism up. They were putting me in this state. And the only thing I just remember, the one thing when I was in the hospital and I was looking up at those little buzzy lights, which I hate, and I said, I have to do something different. I don't know what I'm going to do for my career. I don't know if my singing voice still wasn't good. Um, I'm not going to worry about any of that. I'm just going to lose. I'm going to lose this weight. That's all I said. But the only thing is, I said I'm not dieting. That is the only promise I made to myself. I didn't know how. I didn't have the roadmap. I wanted to figure it out, and I spent the next year doing that. I figured it out, and it's amazing. And I say this for people that are out there that you might have a stumbling block, and maybe all roads look closed. But if you just have to keep moving forward, because when you stop and you get in the darkness and you start your negative thoughts to cascade on you, and you find yourself kind of buried, not knowing where to go, it's the movement that brings in possibility. And so I said, okay, well, let's figure out the food side. So I really did a whole analysis of what foods made me feel good, how this one made me feel, how this one gave me energy. I just started making a wonderful journal about that. And the same thing with movement. And I found that I was kind of loving this thing. I mean, I was kind of, really loving it. And I was in a Zumba class, in a huge Zumba class, like 100 people in there. And I was in, I don't know, in the back side where I always would be. And the teacher said, you in the back, and looks behind them. No, you, come on up. You know this song, let's teach it. I'm like, okay, well, this is something, you know. And as soon as I did it, it was like this electric went through my system, like, okay, this is it. I'm a teacher. So from that moment on, I
I
was like,
love it.
how do I
I love
become a
it.
teacher?
I love it.
Started just teaching like crazy. That was the first part of my business. I said, okay, well, let me be a group fitness instructor. Let me have mentors along the way. I had incredible mentors. How do you do it? What do I do? What's the best license to get? How do I get licensed for it? Can you help me prepare? I'm one that likes to have all the information. So I said, I don't want to just teach this one thing. Let me become a group a fitness instructor and really understand the science behind it. So I really wanted to get all the proper certifications. And then it was like a certification, as my husband said, what certification are you doing now? I loved it. I loved weight training. And then I started really working at a number of gyms. Then I started working in a number of companies. Then I just started doing events. And then other parts of Lisa came in. So I love planning. I love creating. So I started creating events and planning events. And I mentioned to you earlier, I was in the hospital systems, which I love, love, love. And I was doing things for the nurses. I had 1 minute fitness for people that just had to come and run in with their scrubs and do something. So I was always trying to come up with creative ways to make it fun and make it freeing for someone and to get rid of stress quick. And so I had a series of things that I was doing, which I absolutely loved. And I got a tap on my shoulder from a woman that I had met 5 years previous. And she said, I'm leaving my job, Lisa, at the Rutgers. She was a post-grad in neuroscience. She said, it's at the Brain Health in the Institute Alliance, at Rutgers, and I'm leaving, and I think you could take my position, even though you're not a neurologist, you're not a postdoc, but they're going to be dividing fitness classes and wellness classes support brain study. Big stretch. I was fascinated because, okay, I understood about the physiology of the body. I understood about really how to fuel the body properly. I understood how to switch the brain from thinking something is drudgery to fun and how that will make a difference in your adherence. But what fascinated me on the stint, then I stayed 3 years with Rutgers. I was still doing, as a consultant coming in that position. And the thing that was really quite beautiful is that now I could understand and attend a lot of neurology symposiums on the inner workings of the brain and how it all is so connected and get the science behind it, because I'm kind of a geeky on all of that. And from that was born, the brain body belief alignment program because I could see that you really do need to have all of these things, as my mom would say, all your ducks in order, but you have to have everything together and aligned for you to really to find true wellness.
And I love the science piece of it because if we get to it right when we talk about it, I don't know if you've read James Clear's Atomic Habits. Have you read that?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So I love books like that because it talks
yes.
about a lot of stuff that we just experience, right? The human
Right.
condition, but then it starts to break down why we do the things that we do. And then you can sit there and you can fight nature, right? You can fight your body, or you can sort of understand it a little bit better, right? You can fight psychology, or people
Exactly.
should just do the right thing because it's the right thing, or we can sort of understand what in people's backgrounds, environments make them do certain things and start to shape the world in a way that actually helps people versus
Yeah.
a way where you're sitting there and you're wagging your finger at somebody for something that if you were in the same position, same environment, same kind of conditions, you would probably be doing yourself, right? It takes something really special to break through, especially if you're born into bad habits. You got mom and dad have taught you bad eating habits. And I'm not trying to judge anybody here, but if you spent your childhood growing up on sugar and salt
Yes.
versus veggies and fruits, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to move into the veggie and fruits category of the food chart there for you specifically, right? And so I think that's something that's a big deal. I want to go through these talking points here. We're getting late in the hour. I've loved listening to your story, but we hit some pieces here. I'm going to go to the second one, not going in the order that you submitted them to me, but
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about the challenge once you were losing your voice.
Yeah.
All right, and so taking the time to process your fears, moving them from foe to friend, so fear becomes the gateway to opportunity. And so that's what you did, right? We just talked
Yes.
about you doing that.
Yeah.
So I figured out that's a good place to start, and then we can move on to nourishing and challenging your brain, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say it in a way that really relates to everyone and anyone that's listening because we have fears. Now, anyone that talks about and say, "Ah, well, not me, I have no fears." Well, that's the person that's really blind to your fears. And so that's the person I'm going to be really on top of to say it's okay to acknowledge because the fears are based in a lot of different things. And I'm distinguishing this from the fears, the natural fears of the protective fears of don't walk into traffic and, don't put your hand on the stove. There's a natural fear response to certain things, or a bear is chasing you. I do want you to run, those kind of natural things that we are hardwired for. But similarly, we have these fears that come up that prevent us from taking opportunities. Um, oh, I don't have that. I don't have the background, so I won't take that job. Oh, well, I'm a lawyer, so I can't sing. So, or how do I go up on a Broadway audition against other people that have been singing their whole life? Like those kind of fears that say that I'm not good as, or I'm not ready yet, or, or just will try to prevent you from even trying something. Those are the kind of fears that I love for you to know the possibilities. And this excites me about the brain is that you can rewire, you can create new connections between the activity you want to do, public speaking, whatever it is that you think you can't. You can create a new connection and a new way to really reinterpret what's happening in your body, the things that can happen sometimes when we feel fearful. And so, it was based a lot on the science of that and really taking it through even before I went to Rutgers, just coming to understanding my own self, which is the other key part of this is taking time to know who you are. Most people live blind. And what I mean by that is that you live blind to one, who you truly are, what you truly are made of, what you truly want, what your passions, your loves, your talents, your gifts. We live blind to that. We blind those things and we blind and bury. And so this is an opportunity for you just to take the moment to really know yourself, tune into those things that might be impediments to you moving forward in your life, and know that there is a system and a way to take on any challenge, a negative thought, an idea about yourself, and definitely anything that comes up as fear. I've taken it to this extent. When I feel fearful about something, I say, oh, wow, this is an opportunity. I know it is. There's something on the other side of it. That's why I'm fearful, because I'm thinking like, oh, it came sooner than I thought. And instead of running away, you really say, you know what, let me take a step towards. And earlier when I was talking about, continuing to step, this continued movement, it is so empowering. And I love when I see the light in someone's eye when they're able to do something they previously thought they were too afraid to do, or they were wrapped in negative emotions that were preventing them from what I say is their excellence. Excellence on the other side of fear.
I love that. I love that. And I got to say, when I had those experiences, when I see somebody move into their discomfort zone
Yes.
and they're excited, right? The end all results, right? They're like, I did it, and I won, and I succeeded. And I think typically, right, that's especially if you're doing it with mentorship, with guidance, with somebody that has been there before. We've talked a lot about mentorship. There's almost no way not to win. And, there's obviously challenges that people are going to go through. The no is always a possibility, but, it's that, win or learn versus win or lose, right? That mentality,
Exactly.
right? I'm going to win or I'm going to learn. And so if you
Yes.
go at that, I mean, there's no way that you're going to lose there. Talk to us about, if you nourish and challenge your brain, body, and beliefs daily, you will be on the path to living an age-defying life.
Ooh. First of all, be honest about your age and jump into your age and stop being like, I'm a person of a certain age. I turned 60. I love every age I turn. Claim it and really find the beauty in the aging process. And so when you are able to challenge a belief, a limiting beliefs that we have in all sorts of ways. So when I say challenging your beliefs, there are belief systems that people have in place that sometimes prevent them from doing certain things. It could be based in fears. It could be based in just not understanding. I take this very broadly. Limiting beliefs could prevent you from coming up to a group of people because you feel like you don't know if they're going to be accepting to you. That could be a limitation based on, some perception of how they look or what you've decided they may be based on limiting beliefs you may have had since you were a child. So some of it is just being willing to constantly challenge beliefs. I'm going to be doing a show talking about beyond racial lines, being able just to be free and understanding that this is a learning and growth process. And so long as you're learning and growing, you're growing new brain cells and you're growing new connections and you're keeping that aging process in the way it should be best. And it's the same thing for your body. Oh my goodness, move your body. My cousins in Chicago would say day. If they're listening, they get mad at me. But every day, move your body every day. I have a 10-minute solution. I'm saying if you have 10 minutes and you can give yourself a dedicated 10 minutes, I haven't met anyone yet that can't do that. You want to be able to say, I did something for myself. I picked up a weight. I did a weight training. I did a Tabata boot camp, moving intermittently with regards to your heart rate variability. Or I did a Zumba class, or I did some piece of it. Give yourself an honest 10 minutes. And when I say that, be honest with yourself. If you say you're going to do it, do it. Don't really give power to the dishonest aspects of the promises you make yourself, because those dishonest aspects will derail you. So
I just wanted to interject here that voice that you have in your brain that says,
yeah,
I need to do this today.
yeah,
You got to listen to that, right? I mean,
yes,
it's such a big deal. And I think, whether you're talking about putting 15 minutes in on LinkedIn, for all my LinkedIn peeps there, again, I was having a conversation with a woman this morning. Was talking with Vivica von Rosen, and she wrote a book on, an hour, I think an hour a day or 15 minutes a day. I forget which one it was, but it's not the first time that I've heard that, and I know for myself, committing to do that social media thing. So if it's marketing, if it's the physical fitness, and I have that as well, right? I want to do more push-ups. Well, guess what? If you want to do more push-ups, you need to do push-ups every day, right? You can't come to it once a month and say, all right, I'm going to do, 100 push-ups more than I did the last time I did push-ups, 2 months ago, right? It just doesn't work that way. Physical fitness, like you got to put in that daily work, and then the results when you do it,
They're lasting. I
they're
mean, here's
just
the
there.
thing,
Yeah.
it's small things done consistently over a period of time bring lasting change. Period. I'd much rather someone that commits to me 10 minutes a day to do something than then come in and say, I'm going to do 2 hours today and I'll see you when I see you. The person that's going to do the 10 minutes is going to see it. And I have to give a shout out to the brain, because the brain needs some work too. You got to challenge the brain. Don't do the same thing every day. Please don't always drive the same way every day. Pick up a book, unlike the ones you always read. Challenge your mind in different ways. Make sure you're getting your proper sleep. And the one thing that I want to say is we are meant to be connected with others. And when you're isolating and self isolating, like we've been doing all this time, you have to know how to come back to others. And that is nourishing, not only just because, oh, wow, I feel good. You are actually nourishing your brain. Nourishing, these are
Yeah,
specific.
I think the virtual meetings can be like the Snicker bar for some people.
Yeah,
It's easy. I don't have to cook it. I just
yeah,
open that wrapper, stick it in the mouth, and it tastes good. And so Zoom meetings and virtual meetings can be that for some folks. I know some people don't like the virtual meetings, but for folks getting out there, going to some of these physical things, creating these in-person opportunities, because it really does impact the brain differently. And we got people that are checking in that have been a part of your classes. Millie Evans in East Orange, New Jersey, says she's participated with your classes. Hazel Rogers also checking in from New Jersey, one of your students in your health and wellness classes. So I want to shout out them. Jenny Robinson checking in, talking about saying, I had many family and friends pass away far too early. Growing older is a privilege, right? So definitely appreciating your message here. So I appreciate that. Let's get into this one last talking point before we close things out here. Remember the power of the DDB, deep diaphragmatic breathing. I'm sure you're going to say that better than I just said it. Breathing and unlocking your ability to live in the joy of the present rather than the regret of the past or anxiety about the future.
that's
So
right. The DDB. So listen, you're not going to forget that. Just remember that. The ultimate power that you have, that every single human has inside, that they can call like this, it excites me like this every time I speak of it. Because once I realized, and I became with my training a breathing specialist, part of it was just this idea that in a moment, in a second, you can go from feeling stressed to getting release. And you have the ability from this deep diaphragmatic breathing, which is really allowing yourself to breathe like you see a baby breathe. The stomach rise and falls, and I'll have people say, well, geez, Lisa, I don't know. When I breathe, it's just chest and shoulder. How can I change? And the key thing is that you can change it within 4 days of just laying down, actually feeling what that feels like, standing up, seeing if you can allow that to happen in your body, and repeating that a couple of different times in the evening until you start to just open up. Once you're open, then you are going to do a series of just beautiful, relaxing breaths. I say taking 5 breaths, 5 of this deep diaphragmatic breathing, that kind of deep breath before you have to make a decision, before you go on a certain phone call, before you face some kind of challenge, is going to really ready your mind to really meet the challenge 100%. And so I could go on and on about breathing because it helps with eating, it helps with fueling the body, but I want to talk about how you can use it to release stress. And that was really one of my biggest things when I wrote the book.
and,
Just
and so and this might be helpful for folks. What is something that you should notice about your breathing when it's not optimal. So, you're starting to feel stressed out. You're starting to feel uh, maybe you're about to pick up that Snickers bar, right? What should you start to sort of pay attention to in your breathing? What
Yes.
should you start to sort of say, this is something that I want to change?
Well, you'll see a couple things happen. You'll start to breathe more rapidly. You think taking in more oxygen is helping you, but really you're messing up the balance between the CO2 and oxygen in your system. And so it really causes more stress to happen in the system. So if you notice that your breathing is picking up in pace, that's the time when you really want to structurally stand against the wall, sit in a chair, take your shoulders back, and just see if you can slow. You actually slow the respiratory system down, you slow the cardiovascular system down, and you allow. The other thing that you can do is to close your eyes to all the things that you're seeing. Sometimes it's too much visually going on, and just closing your eyes and taking that moment can reset the body, reset the proper rate. I will say this, the optimum amount of breaths per minute to breathe is 5 to 6. Typically, people are breathing somewhere between 14 to 16 times breath. So that's a huge difference. And the importance of this is that if you're breathing at that 14, 16 time, you are not oxygenating your cells. You're not oxygenating the cells of your body. And there's a woman that I took a course with once. She said cancer can thrive where oxygen doesn't thrive. So you want to have an oxygenated body from your head to your toe. So that's the reason why I need you to do it. But the ease about it is just taking the 5 breaths. Because anyone has time for 5. I know you're busy, but take it out. 5 breaths can have this really wonderful healing, calming feeling that will cascade over your body from your head to your toe. And anybody, I would say that you know reaches out to me, I love sharing maybe 3 to 5 really great breathing exercises, because one of my passions is just to bring this awareness on a worldwide level. We can't all.
And this is basic stuff. I love things like this. We were talking about James Clear. I'm bringing up the image of the book, so hopefully folks are going to go out and grab your book. Yes, commit, do live, embrace the brain body connection to achieve your true desires. Connect with you on LinkedIn. That link is down below in the comments. And I'm going to put it in the comments now, but it's also in the description of the videos on whatever platform you're watching. But I love those things. As I was talking about before, like James Clear talks about habits, and so the great piece of that book is, if you take one takeaway, right? If you're going to get one thing from this, the idea that if you put fruit closer to you than the candy bars and the bad stuff, right? And so a lot of life is like that, right? Just simple solutions. Breathing, if we can focus on our breathing, that's how we take in the world, literally, right? And so if we're able to improve that, we're able to improve so much. You're getting down to the basic kind of stuff. And as I spoke about at the beginning of this program, success, there's lots of roads to success, but every single one is going to involve a healthy brain, right? A healthy body that gets you there. If you don't have that, right, you got a tombstone, right? So you got to get that right. So I'm hoping people will connect with you and take some of these lessons to heart. You have an amazing story, Lisa. If you would just share one more nugget with folks as we wrap this up. We're over time, but I wanted to make sure that you get the last word in here.
Well, the last thing I would love for everyone to really focus on is that concept of love. Because I can give you tips, you can hear really wonderful tips of things to do. But when you love yourself and love others, the love of self is going to say, I will do those things that I know will enhance this health, this body, this gift that's been given me. I'm going to be invested in making sure I can do all that's in my power. So I really need you to work on that loving of self and spreading that love to others. That's how we come back. I call it the new PPE, post-pandemic era. How do we come back stronger than ever? It's in love.
Thank you so much for doing this with me, Lisa. I want to play us off with the BizDev Live theme. You are amazing. I'm so glad that Millie and Hazel could join us that have been in your classes. Jenny, thanks for joining us today. And then Marianne Romano, also from Jersey. We had like lots of Jersey folks in here today. So go Jersey. Thanks for showing up, being here. Lisa, you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
BizDev Live, BizDev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Live. BizDev Live, BizDev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation. Empathy and inspiration. BizDev Live, BizDev Live. Business development, not even selling it. BizD with C. Brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C. Brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. BizDev Live, BizDev Live.